at mail.house.gov. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's hearing and thank our witnesses for joining us to discuss the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on the federal real estate portfolio and where we go from here. The past 14 months have really been overwhelming. Families across the country are struggling to make ends meet. Small businesses and schools have been forced to close their doors to curb the spread of the virus. The famed Las Vegas Strip, which I represent in the heart of my district, resembled a scene from an apocalyptic movie rather than a place that usually welcomes over 40 million visitors a year. With businesses closed, schools moving to virtual classrooms, and our highways and airports nearly empty, unemployment reached levels not seen since the Great Depression. Now with the implementation of the American Rescue Plan, vaccination rates continue to rise, infections are dropping, and communities are starting to open back up. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Of course, federal workers weren't spared the trauma of the past 14 months either. Even those who were fortunate enough to be able to work from home had to deal with the lack of child care, the challenges of online schooling, and the health and well-being of their family members. While working remotely wasn't ideal for all and was in fact challenging for many, the experiment in widespread remote work is widely considered a success, and it's prompting workers and employers to reimagine how and where work gets done going forward. These conversations are no longer theoretical. We are reopening. Hair salons, restaurants, and gyms are returning to full capacity. Tickets for Broadway shows are going on sale, and the first major conventions and trade shows are returning to Las Vegas this summer. Meanwhile, as state and local governments are also lifting restrictions and corporate America ponders calling employees back into offices, discussions about office space are speeding up. How much office space will organizations need? Will workspaces need to be reconfigured? Will employee start and end times need to be staggered? Will companies require employees to be vaccinated before they return to work in their spaces? And will workers be allowed more flexibility to continue to work remotely? These are just some of the questions that are also relevant to this subcommittee because we authorized the acquisition of space for the GSA, General Services Administration. The GSA provides workspace for 1.2 million federal employees in every state and territory across more than 50 agencies at the federal level. GSA's Public Building Service owns over 1,500 federal buildings and leases approximately 8,100 office buildings, courthouses, land ports of entry, data processing centers, laboratories, and specialized space all across the country. With 60% of public building service leases expiring in the next few years and agencies contemplating new ways of working, the government needs to rethink its real estate portfolio. Currently, when agencies seek workspaces, GSA considers the amount of space needed, the type of space, the location, the neighborhood amenities, disaster risks such as seismic safety and fire protection, and of course, the price. As a result of the pandemic, GSA will have to also consider resilience, sanitation, airflow, spatial planning, and telework policies. The pivot will require GSA to consider how the built environment can help the government provide better services, attract and retain employees, and protect our workers' health. Today, we'll host the first of 2 hearings exploring these questions. In a moment, we will hear from expert stakeholders from the private sector with experience in the management, design, and construction of federal buildings and commercial spaces. In our second hearing, we will discuss these issues with the leadership of the GSA to understand their approaches to these questions. In the coming weeks or so, I look forward to hearing from them about what changes in policies, authorities, and regulations Congress can and should enact to meet these challenges and promote healthy and safe work environments while also protecting the interests of taxpayers. I want to once again thank our witnesses for being with us and for participating in today's discussion. We have heard a lot about your expertise and we're grateful for your testimony. I want to apologize in advance, however. Votes have been called and you may see some people moving in and out. That is certainly no reflection on our interest in what you have to say. At this time, I would yield to the Mr. Guest, I'm not sure what your title is now, for his opening statement.
Thank you, Chair Titus, and I also would like to thank our witnesses for joining us